What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the DK Garage. I'm Jeremy, that's Joe, and this is the Race Day Rundown.
We're at Darlington this week. We talked about a lot in our podcast and went into detail, but this is the Race Day Rundown. We're going to give you a lot of information really quickly, and we'll start that with the race preview. Jeremy, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, this is a 400-mile event. Normally when we're at Darlington, it's the Southern 500. Normally just get to run that once a year. But because we had 3 races last year, I guess we get 2 this year. So the first one on the season is a 400-mile. That means there's 293 laps. It's a 1.366-mile track. With that many laps, there is 205.1 potential performance points, which, of course, are our fastest laps and laps led. The stages break down as 90 in the first stage, 95 in the second, 108 in the final stage, most likely a long green flag run, and the comp caution is coming at lap 30. So it's going to be really interesting. The last time we were here, Kevin Harvick won. He actually won 2 of the 3 races last year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. We talked about a lot of these drivers at the top of the slate really extensively in our podcast, and that link's up above. And to do so, we want to get this out to you quickly. We don't want to go as in much detail, but we want to give you the impact associated with this, and we do that on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can find this in our race guide. That link is down below in the description, and it will allow you to have this visual reference to go along with it, because we fill a lot of information and data and discuss a lot of that, but we try to make it visually nice in this race guide. Take a look at that down below. Jeremy, you want to get started here?
Well, the guy who's coming in at the top of the salary board is Kyle Larson. Second week in a row, he's the most expensive guy. He is starting 14th this week. Absolutely impressive last week. We were on him. He got the first 10 from me last week that I've given anybody. And somehow, through looking at the data and everything, I'm about on a 10 on Larson again this week.
I think he can have a huge impact on this race. He's got a great path to value starting so far back and having a dominant race car ability. Giving him a 10 as well. First time I've given anybody a 10 after last year's experience. I see why. It's only the only 10 I'm giving this week. So we'll move on down the list to Joey Logano. I think 11-1 starting 12th. I've given him an 8. I think he has a great path to value. I just don't think that his stats here, like we talked about in the podcast, really shape up for him to be as great of a value as some of these other guys below him.
Yeah, I'm at a 8 as well, and I'd say it's kind of a softer 8 with Logano. But we talked about it. He is statistically been the best racer, the best driver on the 750 horsepower package, which is a different package than we ran last year. That was a 550. Gonna be a little different. We can't completely rely on the stats from last year. Need to go back a couple years to get maybe a little bit more accurate. That's one of the reasons why we were so high on Larson. But I am at an 8 as well. I think Logano has potential here. His stats aren't terrible, but not my favorite play. And for me, you say you were at an 8 on him? Yeah, I'm at an 8 for Denny Hamlin, who's the next guy on the salary board. He's at 10-6, starting 7th. I'd say it's a little stronger 8 for me than Logano, if we want to talk about it that way. Did get a win here last year. But, again, probably not my favorite play on this slate.
I've given him an 8 too. I think him and Logano could be great pivots off of Larson in a GPP environment where you could really be different, because I think Larson will be highly owned because people are looking at a lot of the same data we are. That's why I think he's still a solid value in that environment in a GPP scenario. Martin Truex, I know I like, and you do as well, starting 4th. He's 10-3. I've given him an 8. I like him almost in the same kind of realm where we just got done talking about Logano and Hamlin, a great pivot off of Larson. You've given him a 9. You're pretty high on him, and for good reason.
Yeah, he has been just knocking down fast laps and a ton of laps led here last year and in previous years. This track suits him well, but he doesn't have any wins. He tends to, I guess, fade back a little bit, which is a little concerning starting 4th. But if he can get out front and lead those laps like he's shown to do consistently race after race, and he's done at times this year. I think Truex is probably one of my second favorite plays in this 10K and up price range.
We move on to Brad Keselowski, 10,000 starting first. We're going to need some dominators. Everybody we've talked about has the potential of doing so. Brad Keselowski did so last week for a short period of time until Kyle Larson caught him. He's in the same position this week on the poll. I've given him a 7. I think he has a way to be impactful here, but I think he also could be a detriment to your lineup build too. So I don't want to have a ton of exposure, but he could really exceed in value.
I am at a 7 as well, and essentially for the same reasons that you just said. I always have a hard time wanting to play anybody starting first and second. You don't see those guys make those optimals very often, but it can happen. Brad is a type of guy who could make this happen, but especially in this era where we're not doing practice and we're not doing qualifying, starting first is a metric based off of the season and the most previous race. It doesn't always mean that much at that track. And so starting first, you have nowhere to go but down or lead laps. And right now with Brad, 7 is still a good score, but there's other guys I like more.
I completely agree, and I think Kyle Busch is almost in the same category. He's next on the list, 9,800, last week's winner, starting third. I've given him a 7. I think he's in a very similar situation. He has shown that he can be fast in this package, and this is a track he's had pretty solid performance at, but not the greatest. I think being here, he's a great GPP play. I'm not very strong on him at cash by any means.
I gave Kyle Busch a 7 as well. I kind of gave my reasons why, obviously in the podcast. I do like him a lot, but I think most of my lineups, if I'm going to be playing someone in this price range, I'm actually going to be playing, I think, more Harvick this week, coming at 9,600, starting second. Again, I don't love playing those front row starting guys, but I gave him a 9 for this week. I think he's getting closer, just like Kyle Busch. He's getting closer to popping off 2 wins here last year. I get it's a different package, but man, getting Harvick under 10K at a position spot like this, I think there's some good value there.
And with his performance here at Darlington, I think it's a great opportunity to get him at a really solid price point with an opportunity to potentially dominate a race for once, where he hasn't been in an opportunity like this for a while. See if he can capitalize on it. I think you could really find a great way to value with Kevin Harvick this week. I've given him an 8. I really think he is one of the keys to maybe potentially opening up the doors to a solid win and performance. I like him as a cash play this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough call between, Kyle Busch, Harvick, and the next guy, Alex Bowman, 9,400, starting 19th. I gave him a 9, and I gave him a 9 because there's PD upside. He already has a win. The team's strong. They're running a cool paint scheme this week on the Throwback for a good reason. And he was the third best driver, according to driver rating, here last year with an average finish of like 8.8 or something like that. Really solid. I know it's a different package, but again, Bowman has tracks where it's like, if he's kind of good here, he's probably going to run really good here. So that's why I'm at a 9.
I've given him an 8. I think he is a solid value, and there aren't a lot of place differential upside plays that you can feel comfortable about this week, and I think he is one of them with his recent success and performance and at this track, and as the season as a whole, already having a win. I think he's in a solid, position to reach value fairly easily. His teammate is starting a little bit further up, Chase Elliott, next on the board, 9,200, starting 6th. He's actually kind of putting some stuff together. It's really nice to kind of see them in the right portion of the season when they typically are strong come together. This could be a week to pick up Chase Elliott for cheap. He's the third Hendrick car on this list that we've talked about. There's 2 of his teammates above him, so could be a right for the picking this week.
Yeah, Hendrick, I think, could be another week that Hendrick could be strong. We mentioned it last week at Kansas, and we were basically right. Bowman didn't quite do what we thought he would do, but again, we know that's kind of what you get with Bowman. So there's always a little risk with him. But I think Chase Elliott's in a good spot. 9,200 seems pretty cheap. Seems like he should be closer to that 10K range. So you maybe get a little salary relief there. I gave him an 8. But the next guy, Ryan Blaney, 9,000, starting 16th, is the biggest difference between impact scores I think we've had since we started doing this. We're usually pretty close. I gave Blaney a 5, and I went into detail why I felt that way. But do you want to quickly tell people why you gave Blaney an 8?
Yeah, I've given him an 8 because I think he's shown the ability to kind of take that next step this year. And in a 750 horsepower package that we're racing with compared to a 550, Team Penske has really performed strongly. So the data that you're looking at and referenced in the podcast could be skewed a little bit. And this is more of a wild card race, in my opinion, than we have had in the past. So I think this is a great avenue to value. There, like I said just a little bit ago, there's not very many guys with place differential potential. He's one of them.
William Byron does not have that place differential, but he comes in next at 8,800, starting 5th. But he's on a tear. He's got top 10s just, I think, since Homestead. I think that's 8 straight now. A little tough spot starting that high, but, he's been making it work here recently. I'm going to give William Byron a 7 this week.
I've given him a 6. I think this could be a week where we see a little bit of struggle. This isn't the easiest track to get around. It really is a track that lends to experience, and I think he's getting there. We've talked about it a lot, but I think this week might be a time we see a little bit of regression towards the mean.
So on the rest of the slate, there's only one driver that we have rated higher than the guy we're about to talk about. We'll get to him in a second, but Christopher Bell comes in next, 8,600, starting 21st. Early at Kansas, we liked him a lot last week. Early at Kansas, he looked like he was going to go take the lead from Brad there for a minute, but didn't end up that way. Had a very bad finish, and because of that, he gets the 21st starting spot. We are looking for that. We're a little starved for solid PD plays this week, so Christopher Bell is going to be probably top 3 best that you can get, at least in my opinion. And for that reason, I gave him a 9.
Yeah, I've given him a 9 too. He's in solid equipment with that place differential upside. It just lends itself to be a great avenue to value, and we're really looking for value in these guys below 9,000, and he's one that jumps off the board at me.
Kurt Busch will be next at 8,400. He starts 17th. I gave him a 7, which is a pretty solid score. Not my favorite play, but I could see playing him as a nice, probably lower ownership guy because he's squeezed in between 2 better place differential plays. So maybe a good GPP play, good low ownership play, but not someone that I'm enthusiastic to play. But sometimes you just got to do that with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, and I've given him an 8 because I'm pretty enthusiastic about playing him in a GPP environment. I think he, just because of those reasons that you spoke about, gives me an opportunity to be different. So I like him in that setting, not as much in a cash play scenario, because the guy below him, Eric Jones, 8,200, starting 26th, in my opinion, is one of the best plays. You've given him a really high impact score of 10.
Yep. I guess, only the third time to give out a 10. I try to keep it really look, if I say a 10, I really like this play, and I really like Eric Jones, and I actually had already rated him a 10 before he went out and won the Pro Invitational at Darlington. Again, I don't factor those kind of things into what we put out as far as our content, but kind of have to a little bit because Brad won the most recent Pro Invitational, or the one before the other day, and then he went out and won Talladega. I don't know if we see the same thing from Eric Jones. He's not in as good equipment as he usually is or was last year previously, but this is probably his best track on the circuit. And starting 26th, I don't see him hanging out that low. I think he's got a ton of upside, and I think he has a legitimate chance to threaten the top 10, which is a little surprising in that 43.
That is really going to be interesting to watch and see how high his ownership is. The guy below him, Eric Almirola, $8,000, starting one spot behind him, 27th, might not garner as much ownership because he hasn't had as much recent success. I have given him a 7 because I think he's in another spot where he could be a great GPP play. I'm not trusting him in cash, but somebody I would take a stab at in the GPP environment.
I would actually rate Amarola lower than the 6 that I gave him, but the fact that he is starting 27th, and I know that car should be better than that, I have to respect it. But it's been a tough season. We talked about it this week. We don't talk about Amarola a ton, but I brought it up in our podcast this week. They're struggling. I think at some point they'll probably turn it around a little bit, but it's a tough spot for me, but I'll respect the 27th starting spot.
Matty D, 7,800 starting 8th is next. I've given him a 7. I think he could have an impact on this race. We would need him to not do a ton, just have a solid finish and maybe get a couple of fastest laps, and he's reaching value. So I think he could be impactful. He's had a great stretch of races here recently. Could we see another top 10 out of Matty D?
I think we could, and I potentially could see a top 5. Now, his stats don't reflect that, but then again, he hasn't been in Wood Brothers equipment for that long. He's usually been in much worse equipment. So his data is not going to be great. But to dig himself out of the hole he was in early in the season and see how well they're running, I gave him a 7 as well. I would love to be higher, but starting 8th, there's not a lot of PD upside. But he kind of did it last week and was still usable. Still helped you win money. So I like Matty D a lot. I don't like the next guy on the list, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 7,600 starting 28th. Another guy that we're looking for, nice PD upside. I thought he'd be a decent option at 76, but looking at his stats, in my opinion, it's rough. I gave him a 5.
I've given him a 6 because, again, we're looking for some guys that have a place differential potential. He has been a little bit better this year, very inconsistent, but been pretty quick. So I think he does offer a path to value, but I'm not going to be playing him in cash games by any means. He's a great GPP tournament environment play. Somebody that you could plug in and probably gain a little bit of points, but not feel super confident whenever you play Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Absolutely. Up next, coming in at 7,500, starting 9th, is Austin Dillon. Surprisingly, not terrible here. Been running pretty good this year. Better than his kind of career would show. It's a tough spot, but I'm going to give him a 7 this week.
I've given him an 8. I think he is really in a nice spot along with his teammate Tyler Reddick below him at 7,400. They're starting 9th and 10th. These guys have been pretty quick in this package, even though that they've really been faster in the 550 setup. I think that this kind of racing and this style of track really lends to both their racing styles. Could see solid days for both of them, and I've given them both an 8 for those reasons.
I gave Reddick an 8 as well. I want to give him higher, and maybe I should give him a little lower just because he is starting 10th, so there's more risk there. But this is a track that I think Reddick can excel at. He's had some decent runs, and if he can get that top going, he could be a threat. And, again, doesn't mean too much, but there was times in the Pro Invitational he was looking good too. I like Reddick a lot. I mean, you're going to have to find some value down below because you're going to want to have these high-priced guys. So Reddick might be a nice little pivot from some of these other guys we've already talked about.
Ryan Newman's next, 7,200, starting 20th. I've given him a 7 because he is a very experienced veteran. He knows how to get around this track. He's decent equipment. If he can keep it clean, he can get to the end and actually have a way to reach value. Not my favorite play. He's not in my cash game stash by any stretch of the imagination, but I do want to have some exposure.
I think Ryan Newman has a legit shot to, and his stats would reflect this, get a top 15, which doesn't sound that impressive, but for that team, that's a nice success. It's good for him in the points. And for us, starting 20th, there's some positive PD there. And if guys, like Dillon and Reddick, who we already talked about, if they have trouble and they're higher owned, well, now Newman looks good. So I give him a 7. Not super enthusiastic to play him because they do have trouble from time to time. But career-wise, he's been pretty solid at Darlington. Got to respect it.
Yeah, the next guy on the list is Cole Custer, 7,100, starting 24th. We've both given him a 6 because I think we, again, are trying to find some value in this middle tier. And the guys below him, really, there's not much to talk about based on information that we have. That I don't like a lot of it. So Cole Custer, I think, gives us a little bit of a chance. He has a win at Kentucky. A GPP play for sure. No cash. But somebody I will have very little exposure to, but I want some.
He can work out, but we talked about the struggles from Stuart Haas as an organization. We've seen him look decent at times this year, but we've also seen him look really bad. I don't know what we get from him at a tough track, too tough to tame, as is known as. I gave Custer a 6. It is tough, and to me, we just look at our rating. I think the next guy that's worth playing, you got to go all the way down to 6,300, starting 18th, Ross Chastain, to find any sort of value. I don't think Bubba Wallace is there this week. I don't think Briscoe's there. I think Suarez at times has looked fast, but starting 15th is tough. And then Chris Buescher could work out, but starting 11th is also really concerning. So to me, after Cole Custer, to find any value, I think you go down to Ross Chastain.
And I'm not even super high on Ross Chastain at this track and the equipment that he's in. It's very difficult for me to feel confident in that. I've given him an impact score of 5. I think you see a little bit more value there.
Yeah, I gave him a 7. Part of it is because he's been running better recently. Not always getting the finishes, but I'm actually seeing him crack the top 15 and even crack sort of the top 10 at times. Even though it may be through pit strategy, they're making it work. Again, you're kind of starved for this cheaper value this week. That's why I'm kind of giving him a little higher score of 7.
The next guy I think we should talk about is Ryan Preece, 5,900, starting 29th. I've given him an impact score of 7 because I think he is a great fit into this bottom tier because there's not a lot of value below him. I think there's really only 2 plays we have left to talk about, and Ryan Preece offers the place differential potential starting in that 29th position, and he's been fast at times, and in this 750 horsepower package, I think it could lend to him having a better day than some people anticipate.
Yeah, I think, 29th, that's tough because you're starting in the back. You hope that you have a fast car. You don't get put a lap down early. So there's risk there. But if he's able, we've seen at times have fast car, if he's able to have, show up with a fast car, stay in front of the leaders, make it to the comp caution, make the adjustments they need to make, I think he's playable. I gave him a 7. Corey LaJoie would be next on the board at 5,700. He seems like he should be getting these better finishes, but for whatever reason, they're not. I got to give him a 6, and that's still better than some of the other guys below him.
Yeah, I've given him a 5 because, again, very similar to Preece, he can pay off. There is a path to value. I don't think he's been near as fast as what Preece has. I'm not near as high on him. But if you are looking for one final punt play, I think Anthony Alfredo is the bottom of the barrel. Even starting 25th, that's kind of tough, but it allows him to kind of have a buffer from being lapped as quick as some of these other guys, and he is in better equipment, so we could see him be able to reach value. I've given him 5, starting in 25th, only $5,400.
Yeah, I think he was starting like 24th last week, and he was 4,500, and I was playing him then, and he kind of worked out. It wasn't too bad. I think he had like 18, 19 points, so not terrible for 4,500, but now I got to pay practically an extra $1,000 for him. I'm with you. This would be kind of my bottom punt play. You may have to fit him in there to get the guys you really want, but by no means do I look forward to having to play Alfredo in this spot because I don't see a ton of upside with him.
Well, that's basically all we wanted to talk about today. The other drivers we didn't mention aren't really going to be impactful on the race in our opinion, so we appreciate you watching and coming along for this. We made an exciting announcement in our podcast. We're going to be live at COTA here in a couple weeks, and to kind of help celebrate, we decided to do a giveaway. Jeremy, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, we got here some 2021 Donruss Racing Hobby Box, and we're going to be giving away one of these to hopefully one of you guys watching. All you need to do is click the link down below. It's going to take you to our Twitter. There's a tweet there. All you need to do is retweet it and tag 3 of your friends. And is there anything else they need to do?
Nope, just like, retweet, and tag 3 of your friends. We describe everything in the video to make sure that you can be a participant. We've had a lot of fun and engagement. We're almost at 100 subscribers, which has been a lot of fun for us, and we continue to see more and more active engagement from week to week with y'all, and we enjoy that. So we want to further that and help celebrate the everything and the excitement of COTA, the first time on the schedule. We'll be there live. If we aren't able to, I guess basically we're giving away 1. We want to give away 2, and we can do that if we can get to 200 subscribers by the COTA.
Here on YouTube. So if we can get to 200 subscribers on YouTube, we'll be giving away a second one. If we don't get to 200, well, you get to watch us open it.
We'll be doing that. So that would be fun either way, but we will regardless be giving away 1, and it's easy to enter, so make sure you check it out.
So go do that real quick. After you do that, get all your lineups in, and then after the race, let us know how you did. With all that being said, I'm Jeremy, that's Joe, and this was the Race Day Rundown.